So I want to talk a little more about international law, and at this time I want to talk about the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act. The big thing with the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act is distinguishing between grease payments and bribes. I mentioned the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act a little bit earlier when I talked about the issue of extraterritoriality of U.S. laws. That is, that some U.S. laws will be applied to U.S. businesses even when they're doing business internationally. So the big distinction is between a grease payment and a bribe. And the idea of a grease payment, which is legal under the FCPA, it's legal. And the idea of the grease payment is to smooth the process. So the idea then is that if a particular agent in another country asks for additional money to process paperwork, it's generally paid to a lower level worker, so that'd be the clerk that's shuffling the papers to grant the license. It's a license that isn't discretionary, really. You're pretty much guaranteed to get it as long as you submit the proper paperwork. But the grease payment itself is paid directly to that official. But again, that's a lower level worker. In a grease payment that is legal under the FCPA, it doesn't change what you would have gotten. In other words, you would have been able to get that license or that next step in the process. You would have been able to get it anyway, whether you paid the payment or not. The biggest thing the grease payment does is to make it go a little faster. So to kind of smooth the process, as I've stated in the slide. The bribe, on the other hand, is illegal under the FCPA. And the bribe is paid to get something that the business couldn't otherwise obtain. It couldn't otherwise get that, whatever that treatment is. So in the case of the bribe is paid to an influential official or decision maker, not the lower level worker who's processing the paperwork, who isn't doing anything really extra other than kind of smoothing your paperwork through the process. It's paid to someone who has discretion in making a decision. It's being paid to someone who could decide yes or no to your application, um, and it's someone higher up in the chain. So the bribe is what's illegal under the FCPA. What has been interesting is that over time, this U.S. definition of the FCPA has expanded to other countries. And although I didn't include it on the slide, there is a kind of corruption index that in part is based on how much bribe or how many bribes have to be paid in order to even get discretionary actions done. And the definition has changed in part based on the FCPA. Now, on the slide itself, on this slide and the previous slide, I have a picture of what might be Lady Justice with a scale. And in the case of the bribe, the scale is filled with money in an attempt to get something that the person wouldn't otherwise get. So that's the basis for the picture. Okay, again, read more about it in the book, but this just gives you an overview.